I'm starting on a very special project today, so I wanted to share the story with you. I bought a brand new pyramid mold for this project, and I'm getting the mold ready so that I can get started. My client Janeth recently lost her husband to pancreatic cancer, and she sent me this photo asking me to replicate this pyramid and include her husband's ashes in the second layer. Janet shared her story with me and it really touched my heart, and I feel like it's meant to be shared. So I'm going to tell you what she told me with her permission in her words. Ernesto was an amazing husband and father and a hard worker. He has 3 children, 2 boys and a baby girl. He was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer in the year 2019 at the age of 36. After battling close to 5 years, he never let the cancer define him. He continued to work through chemotherapy, radiation, multiple surgeries, always with a smile to the very last day. After every session, he would go to work the next day, facing life with bravery and resilience. We are into crystals and positivity, and we stumbled upon your page. His last wish was for me to reach out to you so you could put him in a pyramid. He wanted the pyramid in our crystal collection to protect and give positive energy to our family, and for me to always have him near my heart. I kept my promise to reach out to you, and you answered my message. So that's Janeth and Ernesto's story. I never made a pyramid like this before, so it would be my first, but I was pretty determined to figure out how to make this as exact as possible because this was Ernesto's last wish. So I'm going to show you how I did that, and I hope that Janeth and Ernesto's story brings a little warmth to your heart. I'm getting started on the first layer, and I just poured a little bit of resin and added some silver flakes. It's a very small amount just to fill up the tip. And my camera didn't record the part where I was pouring it, so I apologize that I don't have that clip. But now I'm just popping the bubbles and making sure this resin is bubble free and that I added enough silver flakes. Then I'll let the resin cure overnight and come back and work on the second layer. I'm here the following day and I'm mixing my resin for the next layer. This is the layer where I will be placing in Ernesto's ashes. And for this design, the ashes are in the second layer, which is pretty much the top of the mold. And that's why I'm going to pour the ashes directly into the cup of resin and mix that up first so the ashes are kind of liquefied instead of being powdery. And then I'll pour that cup of resin with the ashes mixed in into my mold. Normally, my cremation pyramids have the ashes at the very bottom final layer. So this is different in that we're doing it at the top. And normally, if I do have ashes at the very bottom, I pour my resin layer into the mold and then directly put the ashes into my resin that's already in the mold, so I don't mix it in a cup. But in this case, if I were to try to do that same method, a lot of the ashes, since they're so powdery, would get stuck to the inside of the mold and it'll be pretty messy. The final pyramid will probably not be as clean as you want it to be. Now I'm pouring my second layer And I'm aiming to go directly on top of that first layer and try not to get any resin or ashes on the walls of my mold. The tricky thing with mixing the resin and ashes in the cup is that it's almost impossible to get every bit of ash into the mold. So I have a little trick that I'll show you. I'm gonna just try to scrape as much as I can into my mold. I've poured as much of the resin ash mixture into my mold as I could, and I flipped my cup upside down into an old mold. It's just a mold that I no longer use, but it's still useful for purposes like this. I'm gonna pop the bubbles in my pyramid mold, and I'll let both the pyramid mold resin and the resin in my cup cure overnight. Fast forward to the next day, and this is what my cup looks like. You can see that all the resin has pulled to the bottom, and it's easy for me to peel that off. And I'm gonna keep this big piece as well as any little pieces that I can get from the inside of the cup. And when you put your cup upside down like that, it's easier for me to peel off the resin because it's just a little thin layer. I'll peel off as much as I can, and sometimes I have to cut the cup to peel everything fully. And then I'll keep these pieces for later. I plan to place them into the dark purple layer at the bottom so that it's not visible. I'm gonna work on the third layer of my pyramid, which is a light purple color. That shimmery effect is usually achieved with a mica powder coloring, and I have a set of a lot of different colors of mica powder. This lilac purple was the most similar, so I'm going to use this one and mix it into my resin that I've already mixed together. And usually with mica powders, the more you put in, the less transparent the resin is. I'm thinking for this one, I'm gonna need quite a bit of mica powder because there isn't any transparency in the photo. But I'm gonna start by mixing a little bit and then adding more as I see fit. After looking at the photo, I felt like the color needed a little bit of a light blue tint to it. I thought it was a little bit too pink and a little bit too dark. So I'm using this azure blue and just adding a little bit to lighten it up. Now this looks like the right color to me, so I'm gonna pour it in, pop the bubbles, and then let my resin cure. Now my layer is cured, and I'm gonna work on my fourth layer, which is a dark purple layer with some glitter in it. I have this alcohol ink that's a very similar color. It's the Pinata brand in blue violet. So I'm gonna use that. And to be honest, alcohol ink can be a little bit unpredictable in resin. Sometimes it cures a different color or it mixes a different color. So if you're unsure, it might be better to use transparent resin ink that's made specifically for resin. This alcohol ink, I've used it before, so I know exactly how it turns out. When you mix it in resin, it actually mixes blue, but when it cures purple. So I only know this because I've worked with this particular bottle before. So sometimes that happens with alcohol inks, and I'm honestly not sure why. It must have something to do with the ink formulation that reacts with the resin. I have this glitter that I'm gonna add in. I thought it looked very similar to the photo. It's a light blue color. And sometimes with glitter, there's an issue of all of the glitter sinking to the bottom of the layer. And if that keeps happening to you, my tip is to add in the glitter when your resin is towards the end of its pot life, so it's a little bit thicker and it can suspend the glitter instead of letting it all sink. The resin in this cup was actually a small amount of resin that was reserved from a big pot that I mixed and I poured on all my flower blocks first. So it was sitting there for maybe 15-20 minutes before I added the color and glitter to it. And that's why it's suspending the glitter pretty well. Now I've poured this layer in and I don't see any bubbles, and sometimes that's the case when you add some alcohol ink. I think the alcohol helps release the bubbles. So I'm just gonna let this cure overnight, and you'll be surprised to see that the color turns purple after curing. I'm here the next day and everything cured as expected. The blue color turned purple and the glitter is suspended, so I'm really happy about it. And I'm gonna work on the fifth layer, which is a silver layer, and it's got a little shimmer to it. It didn't look quite like a mica powder coloring to me. It was a little bit more matte. So I'm gonna use acrylic paint. And my friend had this paint, it's called liquid metal in a silver color, and I thought it matched perfectly. I'm just gonna add a little bit to my resin. Now I'm gonna pour this into my mold and pop my bubbles and let it cure overnight. The last layer is cured, so now I'm gonna work on my sixth layer, which is just a clear layer of resin with suspended silver flakes. I have a bottle of silver flakes, and I'm gonna put a generous amount to achieve the look that's in the photo. Mix that in the resin and then pour that into my mold. Now I'm gonna pop my bubbles and then let it cure overnight. My silver flake layer is looking pretty good, and I'm gonna start on my seventh layer, which is a teal mica powder layer. So I'm gonna try to achieve that same color. I have a blue-green mica powder that I'm gonna start off with, and I'm gonna add that to my resin. Now I'm gonna add a little bit of blue to make it look more teal, so I'm using this glossy blue. I felt like the color was almost there, but I needed a little bit of a lime green, so I'm using this gold green to give it that bright color. This color looks really pretty to me, so I'm gonna stop here and pour it into my mold, and then I'll pop the bubbles and let it cure overnight. Now I'm working on my 8th layer, and this just has teal glitter inside of clear resin. I couldn't find any teal glitter at the store, and it was between blue and lime green, so I figured this bright blue color would complement the pyramid better and I could still achieve a similar look. So I'm gonna put the glitter in my resin and then pour it into my mold. I'm here on the final day and I'm gonna work on the last layer, which is a purple mica powder layer. I have my mica powder in purple blue, and I'm gonna add that to my resin and then pour into my mold. And in this layer, I'm gonna add in the little bits of resin that I saved that had Ernesto's ashes on the mixing cup. And I'm gonna press that in and make sure it's fully submerged so that it's hidden in this layer. And I ended up choosing this layer to place the ashes in because it's the darkest layer and I feel like it won't be visible. So I'm gonna add as many pieces as I can and then let it cure overnight. Now my pyramid is finished and I'm ready to demold. I'm using my metal scraper to loosen the mold from the housing, and then I'm gonna take the mold off the pyramid. And this is what the finished pyramid looks like. The glitter and the mica powders in the sunlight look really beautiful. I normally don't make pyramids like this, but this project has really changed the way that I view colored pyramids. I think I want to make more of these, to be honest, because I can see how this piece would age really well and would just be a really beautiful art piece in somebody's home. And I'm gonna bring back the example photo that Janeth sent me just to compare. And I think I got pretty close to it, so I'm really happy with the outcome. And to finish this off, Janeth asked me to place an inscription on the outside. I made my inscription stickers with my Cricut machine, and I chose a holographic silver vinyl because I felt like that's what she would like. And the vinyl's really cool because when you look at it from different angles, it has a rainbow effect. And it's a permanent vinyl, so I'm not too worried about it coming off. I just need to make sure it's on there very nicely. And then the piece is all done. Here's what the finished piece looks like with the added inscription. You can see that holographic effect that it has. And I hope you enjoyed the story and the video. Please send Janeth and her children your prayers, your positive thoughts, whatever you believe in. And thank you for watching. I will see you again soon. Bye.